words to which I should like to call your attention this evening are to be found in the 107th Psalm, Psalm 107, reading verses 4 to 9, from the 4th to the 9th verse in the 107th Psalm. They wandered in the wilderness in a solitary way. They found no city to dwell in. Hungry and thirsty, their soul fainted in them. Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distresses. And he led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city of habitation. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness, and for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he satisfieth the longing soul, and filleth the hungry soul with goodness. Those who were present here last Sunday evening will recall that we began a consideration of this great psalm on that occasion. It's one of these great Old Testament hymns of praise and of thanksgiving unto God. The man begins by saying, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever." Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, he says, whom he hath redeemed from the hand of the enemy, and gathered them out of the lands from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south. And we indicated there that its great theme is this praise that is offered to God for his goodness, because he is good, and because of the manifestation of his goodness in our salvation. Praise to God for his mercy, which endureth forever. In other words, the theme of the psalm can be put like this: that it is God alone who really can save us. That salvation comes only from the Lord. That is its theme, which he expounds and puts to us in a number of different ways. It is God who's to be praised, because apart from him there is no salvation. But in him there is an abundant and a plentiful salvation. And as we were at pains to emphasize chiefly last Sunday night, this is for everybody, for all who seek it, for all who become conscious of their need, north and south, east and west, irrespective of temperament, conditions, background, abilities, everything else. Doesn't matter. It is something that is available for all who seek it. And the psalmist goes on impressing upon us that particular truth. It is, I say, for all who realize their distress and who are anxious to be delivered out of the hands of their enemy that holds them in such a terrible bondage. Now, he lays down that in those first 3 verses which we considered last Sunday night. But having done that, he goes on to illustrate it. He's not content merely with laying down a general proposition. He now gives us examples and illustration. He's like a man, if you like, setting down a great thesis, and then he goes on to prove his thesis. Or, if you like, and it's quite a legitimate thing, obviously, to do with a psalm which is a song, it's like a great symphony. He has his introduction, and he tells us what he's going to do. Then he does it in a number of movements, and then he gathers it all up together at the end. It is indeed, therefore, a most artistic composition, and something which calls for our admiration in that sense and in that respect, quite in addition to its inherent spiritual truth and value. Now, we are beginning to consider these different cases which this man puts for our consideration. He's got 4 main examples. And it is generally agreed that these 4 examples and illustrations which he gives us are undoubtedly to be used and to be interpreted metaphorically. He describes people in certain physical conditions. And the truth is, of course, that God can deliver us and does deliver us out of physical conditions. But in addition to that, and over and above that, physical deliverances are but parables and signposts pointing to what God does for us in an infinitely bigger manner in a spiritual sense and with respect to our souls. Now, I indicated last Sunday evening that it's very generally agreed that this is probably a psalm which has reference to the captivity of the children of Israel. And that is probably so. So all these pictures and illustrations that he uses can be thought of primarily in terms of the deliverance of the children of Israel out of their actual captivity. But that in turn is nothing but a great picture of the deliverance which our souls have in Christ in a spiritual sense and out of our spiritual bondage and captivity. Very well, then, we say that they all are to be interpreted mainly in that metaphorical sense, and we shall do so with this first illustration this evening. Another important point to bear in mind as we approach these examples and illustrations is this: that undoubtedly each one of them is meant to be a picture of sin. Sin is something which is protean in its manifestation. It's a small word, but it's very powerful. And sin is something that manifests itself in an almost endless variety of ways. That is a part of its subtlety, of course. And it is because we fail to realize that sin does manifest itself in so many different ways that we sometimes don't recognize it even when we're looking at it. We tend to think that sin always appears in the same way, but it doesn't. Most people can recognize sin when it appears in rags, but many people don't recognize it when it appears in evening dress. Many people can recognize sin as it may manifest itself in the slum area of a great city, but they don't recognize it in the West End. But it's the same thing. It's got many, many ways of showing itself. If you like an illustration, sin is a disease that has many symptoms. And the object of this man is to give us some examples of these different symptoms. He shows us in every case how they have the same source. It's sin at the root. But his point is that whatever the manifestation of the disease, God can heal it. God can deliver us from it. In every case, he says, then in their distress they cried out unto the Lord. And every time he goes on to say, and he delivered them out of their distresses. Now then, it doesn't matter what form sin may take. If we but cry unto the Lord, he will deliver us. Let us now consider that as it's proved and illustrated by this first picture, which he gives us here in verses 4 to 9. Here, obviously, we are looking at sin in terms of sin as that which causes us to lose our way. One of the etymological definitions of sin is missing the mark. It is one of the right definitions of sin. What is sin? Well, one thing that is true about sin is this: it is that which causes a man to miss the mark. He's aiming at a target, but sin comes in and the bullet is deflected and he doesn't hit the bullseye. Missing the mark. Missing the way, not reaching the objective, stepping aside, being sidetracked. Now, this first illustration is one that gives us a most extraordinary, vivid, and dramatic picture of sin as that which causes us to lose ourselves in life and in this world, and to miss the goal for which we were destined and intended. Now then, let us look at the picture together first of all, and then draw some few principles of teaching from it. This is, of course, a very common picture of sin in the Scriptures. You'll find it in many places. Now, what is the sort of person that we're dealing with here? Listen to the description. They wandered in the wilderness in a solitary way. They found no city to dwell in. Hungry and thirsty, their soul fainted in them. Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distresses. There's the essence of the picture. What kind of person are we looking at? Well, obviously, we are looking at the so-called intellectual type of person. The picture is, you see, of people in a wilderness, a desert. And what are they doing there? Well, they're trying to find a city of habitation. They are looking for a city in which they can dwell and in which they can obtain certain satisfactions. But the trouble is that they can't find it. They're in this wilderness, which is a trackless waste. There are no paths there that lead them to the city. They wandered in the wilderness. You see, they're going backwards and forwards, looking, seeking. In a sense, it's the whole picture of the human race from the very dawn of history. Mankind is looking for a city. But in particular, I say, we are concerned with it as it's depicted here in the intellectual sense. It's a picture, if you like, of people who are out in the great search and quest for truth. It's a picture of men and women seeking for intellectual understanding and intellectual satisfaction. They find themselves in this life and in this world, yes, but they've been given certain gifts. They've got a mind, and it begins to become active, and they begin to ask questions. That's excellent. It's as it should be. And the great questions which they ask themselves is this: what is life? Where has it all begun? Where has the world come from? Has it always existed? Or did it come into being at a given point? What is this extraordinary, elusive thing which we call life? What is it? You look at an animal, and he is full of life, bounding, active. Suddenly, you see that animal dead and lifeless. The body's there, but the life has gone. The same with a flower. The same with man himself. What is it? Now, any thoughtful person, any person with a brain, and who really uses it, is bound to face these questions. Now, these are the people that we're looking at here. This intellectual type of person that's really out for an understanding of life, its meaning, its purpose. That's the city. The city of intellectual rest, of intellectual satisfaction. It is the search, and it is as old, I say, as men, for a whole philosophy of life, for a complete view of existence, including especially man himself. If you like it in more technical terms, it is a search for the philosophy of life. It's a search for a way of life. It's a search for an outlook that really will be satisfactory. Now, I'm saying again that you simply have to read the history of mankind, and you will find that there has been nothing in it which has been more prominent than this very thing I'm describing. The intellectual activity of men has been tremendous. He's been facing the mystery of life. You'll find it in ancient writings. You'll find it even in mythology. Man's looking for some philosopher's stone, some crystal or something into which he can look and solve the riddle of existence and of the universe. He is looking for the city of truth. He is seeking also not merely and not only intellectual satisfaction, but he also is seeking for rules for living, because living is a problem. Human relationships, how to get on with other people, and so on. A man is ever seeking for these rules, and he is seeking, in other words, for some kind of code or some kind of instruction that will enable him to do these things without constantly being immersed and overwhelmed in problems and being upset and cast down and frustrated. He's always been looking for some kind of prescription, some law that can be dictated, which will suddenly put all these things right. Man is doing it as busily and as actively tonight as he's ever done it. That's the type of person we're looking at. Yes, not only that, it goes on and includes something further. As we go on in life, we are ever aware of certain problems and difficulties arising. There are certain riddles in life. You see, because over and above our intellectual quest and the intellectual restlessness that asks for satisfactions and solutions, over and above that, and even as we are engaged in that, things happen to us. And man has been battling with this problem again from the very beginning. Oh, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Oh, the buffetings and the bludgeonings of chance. That's the thing. What can we do about these? Especially, how can we understand them? Why do these things happen to us? Why do things go wrong? Why is there illness? Why is there pestilence? Why are there storms? Why are there calamities? Why are there wars? Those are the questions. They come and they hit us in life, and man all along has been seeking to understand it. Is there a purpose in it all, or isn't there? Are we but a kind of life is life but a kind of chessboard, and are we but the men upon it that are being manipulated helplessly by some unseen forces? What is it? Is it possible to reduce this total experience of ours in life and in this world to some ordered reason? Can I discover the philosopher's stone, the answer to all these questionings and disturbings? Now we are looking at the kind of person who's concerned about all this, and there's one final thing I want to say about him. He is also searching for security. He's searching for protection. Now that's universally true, isn't it? It's never been more obvious, perhaps, in the world and in life than it is today. Security is the great word. We're all making pacts, and the countries are making pacts. We're all out for security, and the tragedy of life is that it's in our desire for security we provoke war. But it's security we're out for. The nations on the other side of the Iron Curtain are assuring the world tonight that they want nothing but security. They feel that they're being menaced and attacked. And the other half of the world is saying exactly the same thing. We want security, and we want it in an individual and in a personal sense also. There are things that are always threatening us. Illness, accident, old age, and death itself standing in the background always, and ever coming nearer and nearer to us. There it is. And man, throughout his long existence in this world, has been crying out for this security, some protection, some tower of safety into which he can go in this evil day that's bound to come, where he'll be protected against it all and be able to recline in peace. That's the quest. They're seeking for a city to dwell in, a city of habitation. Now he puts it to us, you remember, in his thoroughly dramatic manner. But what he really tells us about these people is this, that they clearly are not able to find the path. It is a wilderness, it's a trackless waste. They found no city to dwell in. But I do want you to consider this whole problem with you, this whole picture. You don't need much imagination to see it, do you? Many of us have known it perhaps from personal experience. I know quite a lot about this kind of person. Let me tell you certain things about him. You start out in this quest when you're young, and at first it's really most thrilling and most exciting. You start off with the assured conviction that where everybody has failed before you, you are going to succeed. And every generation thinks the same thing. Every generation is proud of itself and always despises previous generations. Ah, yes, they didn't know. They hadn't advanced. They hadn't the knowledge we've got. But after all, we are really going to do it. It's very true today, isn't it? But you see, we start off like that, full of confidence, full of assurance, full of resilience. Of course, we say we're going to arrive at the city. Of course, we're going to get there. So we set out full of this confidence and full of this assurance. And of course, it's very exciting. The quest itself is to us the thing. It's most enjoyable. And in this mood, we rather tend to smile at older people and we say, to travel hopefully is better than to arrive. The quest, you see, the exercise of the great brain we have, the intellectual curiosity. Oh, we don't want to arrive, but it's this great intellectual exercise. It's amazing, it's thrilling, it's so exciting. So we rush into the wilderness, and we are going to get a straight line through to the city of habitation. The very thrill, I say, of the quest, the enjoyment of traveling, intellectual curiosity. We want to read all sides, we say. Our minds are capacious enough to take it all in, so we try this and we try that. We go the round of the philosophies, perhaps the round of the religions. Why? We're interested in truth. We are really not selfish. We are not personal. We are not talking about being saved or anything like that. We just want to give a little scope to these great minds of ours, and we want to garner knowledge and information from every direction. So off we go with this thrilling enjoyment of this amazing quest for truth. And of course, as we enter into this wilderness to seek for this highway, we meet certain people who offer to guide us. They're very ready to do so. They're very glad to meet us. And they're very pleased to meet somebody who really has a brain and who's intellectually alive and alert and who's able to laugh at the past and all that's been taught hitherto. They're so delighted to meet us, and they say, of course, you just follow me and listen to me and read my books and follow my lectures, and I'll bring you to the city of habitation. And we go after them. But we don't seem to arrive. And then we meet another who tells us, of course, that was quite wrong. That's out of date now. It's this. This is the latest. And again, we have the same charm, and we go with the same eagerness, but again, we don't arrive. Oh, my dear friends, I mustn't keep you. I'm not romancing. I'm simply describing to you what so many people are doing. In this world, at this very moment, they're going the round of the philosophers, the round of the teachers, the round of the cults, the round of all these things that are being offered to us as the solution of the problems of mankind. But we don't seem to arrive at the city. And after a while, we discover that the very guides to whom we've trusted don't know where they are themselves. They haven't arrived either. We may first of all perhaps discover it in their way of living and in their idea of morals, but at any rate we discover that they don't arrive in any sense at all. We thought they were so wonderful, but they don't know. They're false guides. They've raised false hopes within us. And we've done a round of so many of them. And at last we begin to wonder. We begin to feel that time is passing and that we are getting older, and we still are very much where we were at the beginning. We've read so many books, we've listened to so many lectures, we've followed so many men, but actually when we face ourselves and our living and life and our understanding and death and eternity, well, we've got just to admit that we are exactly where we were at the beginning. We don't know any more. We haven't advanced a single step. We've been walking, we've been traveling, certainly, And we thought we'd struck many a pathway that looked as if it was going to lead to a highway, but it didn't. We are back again in a trackless waste. We've gone round and round in circles. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop even at that. Life goes on. And it's no longer early morning with a bright, shining sun. Noonday has passed, tea time has gone, and the shadows of the night begin to appear. And there's an ominous mist in the distance. And we still haven't got a track. We are not on any way that gives us any assurance of bringing us to a city. And not only that, we begin to feel tired. We've walked so much. We've struggled so much. There was certain brushwood we had to get out of the way in certain paths. We were told that effort was necessary, and we made it, and we've tired ourselves. And we're beginning to feel hungry and thirsty. Their souls fainted within them. You see, we've passed middle age now. We're beginning to get old. And the night is coming on, and the shadows are lengthening. And our powers are feebler. And somebody comes, I've got a book, you read this. We say, I'm sorry, I've read so many, I've been told it so often, please don't bother me. We haven't got the energy to read any more books or to argue any longer. Oh, it was marvelous 50, 60 years ago, but we can't do it any longer, hungry and thirsty. Their souls were melting, as it were, within them. Their soul fainted in them. And here they are, drawing ever nearer and nearer to the end, distressed and at last feeling even desperate. At the end of a long life, exactly where we were at the beginning, only this, that we are no longer young, and we've lost our resilience and our capacity to recover, and we've lost faith, and we've lost hope and elasticity, and we are failing, and we are going down, and we are drooping, and we are hungry, and we are thirsty, and our knees are tottering, and the end is coming, and the night is falling, and we are going out of the world, and we don't know where. Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble. An amazing statement. And he delivered them out of their distresses. You know, my friends, I'm almost tempted to pronounce the benediction at this point, because that is the whole thing, the whole story, the whole gospel. It's just that. But there may be someone who feels, yes, that's a marvelous picture, but is it true? What are you really teaching? What are you saying? Well, let me put it to you in the form of propositions now. I've given it as a picture. Let me now put it in the form of principles, propositions. Here's the first. The teaching of the Bible from beginning to end is this: that there is no way in life, there is no truth about life apart from the Lord Jesus Christ. That's why I read to you that portion from the 14th of John at the beginning. I'd rather like you to keep in your minds, as we consider this picture in Psalm 107, 4-9, John 14:6. They wandered in the wilderness in a solitary way. They found no city to dwell in. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. That's the answer. But let me work it out with you. There it is as a bold proposition. There is no way, there is no truth in this world apart from Christ. Now, that's not a dogmatic assertion. That is something that I can prove to you. And I can prove it to you out of the mouths of men who don't believe the Bible. I can prove it to you out of the mouths of humanists. That's the popular word today, isn't it? Humanists. Scientific humanism, I'm told, is the thing today, the thing that's really going to bring me to the city of habitation. Well, very well. When I'm told that, I always go to the best and to the highest authorities I can find. I don't know of any greater scientific humanist in this country today, or perhaps in the world, than Dr. Julian Huxley. And what does he tell us? Well, he tells us this, that his studies and his researches have brought him to this conclusion, that there is no design, that there is no meaning, that there is no purpose, that there is no end in life. It is all accidental. It is all a matter of chance. You never know what's going to happen next. There are what he calls sports, biological sports. That means just this, that certain things are thrown up now and again. Nobody knows why nor how. There is no sense, nor rhyme, nor reason in it. It just happened. He says there is no purpose in creation. There is no purpose in life whatsoever. You can't predict, you can't prophesy the future. You can't tell whether mankind is going up or going down. It may appear at times to go up, then the whole thing may suddenly be smashed. There's nothing in it. He doesn't know. Is that the way to come to the city of habitation? That's the voice of scientific humanism speaking. But let us turn for a moment to the voice of classical humanism. Classical humanism means this, that after all, the key to life and the understanding of life is to be found in the teaching of the great philosophers of the past. Starting with the great Greek pagan philosophers, none of whom were Christians, of course, and most of their followers have not been either. That's the meaning of classical humanism. You go back and study this accumulated wisdom of the ages and of the centuries, the great literature of the world, and as you do so, you will be given the wisdom that you need in life and in this world. Follow that. Well, very well, let's again go to the greatest authority of all in this connection, and that is none other than Professor Gilbert Murray of Oxford, who's not a Christian and says so. A great man, a great brain, a great classical scholar and philosopher. But what does he tell us? Well, he was honest enough to admit and confess in the last war that war had shaken him. He didn't understand mankind. He didn't understand why men didn't apply this knowledge, but he saw clearly that mankind was not applying the knowledge. And what has he to offer us? He still tells us to go back to something that's been there so long, but which is not leading people to this satisfaction. It fails, it doesn't succeed. Coming greatly down the scale, if you want more popular exponents of these views, no man ever stood more for this kind of thing I'm describing than the late H.G. Wells. But you remember his last book, his very last book of all, he gave it this significant title, Mind at the End of Its Tether. He didn't know where he was. The man who'd preached so much throughout his life and who said he knew ends by saying he doesn't know. And he didn't. I haven't wearied you with exact quotations, but if you don't take my word for it, well, at the risk of being misunderstood, I advise you to read these men and you'll find it. I think the most horrible and horrid description of men and of life that I've ever read was a description of life by Bertrand Russell, who again is utterly hopeless about it all. Hopeless about the present, much more hopeless about the future. Sees nothing there at all except blackness and darkness engulfing us, and the only thing he can be pleased about is that he believes that when we do go out of this world, that's the end of it all. It's just ceasing to exist. And in a sense, he almost thanks God that that is what's going to happen, but he doesn't believe in God, so he doesn't thank him. But it's sheer hopelessness It's final despair. They don't know, these greatest leaders and writers. They're baffled, they're bewildered, they don't know, they don't understand, and let me say this for them, they're honest enough to say so. But as there is no way and no truth apart from Christ, there is no life apart from him either, and no hope and no satisfaction. Hungry and thirsty, their souls fainted within them. Yes, but when you come to him, to Christ, you read this: he satisfieth the longing soul and filleth the hungry soul with goodness. There is no satisfaction apart from him. There is no hope apart from him. Again, I'm not simply making dogmatic assertions. I can prove it. And if you want my proof, I simply tell you to go and read the autobiographies and the biographies of great men who have not been Christians. Quite a number have been written recently. I know of nothing more hopeless. I hope you don't misunderstand me. There was a great man called Lord Simon, who was once the Lord Chancellor of England. He wrote his autobiography not long before he died. Read it, my friend, if you want to see the hopelessness of a man who trusts only to intellect and who doesn't believe in God and who doesn't know the Lord Jesus Christ. Poor man. He is trying to be happy by looking back at his great legal successes and the heyday of his life. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not criticizing these men. I'm simply giving facts, and I'm simply saying that I'm sorry for them. They don't know, and at the end they go out into blackness and darkness and despair. Do you know the end of the life story of Charles Darwin? Charles Darwin turned his back upon God and the belief in God and gave himself to pure scientific research because he believed that therein he would find the problem solved and the solution to all these difficulties. And do you know, poor Darwin, this is in his official biography, at the end of his life, he found that he'd lost his appreciation for poetry, for music, and even for a glorious landscape. Oh, what a narrowing of the soul. Oh, what a fettering of a life. What an atrophy of faculties. A man who used to be able to enjoy poetry and enjoy music and enjoy the glories of nature and of creation. He has lost his appreciation. His soul is shriveled. It's dwindled into nothing. But shall I summarize it by putting it in some words that I'm fond of quoting because it seems to me oftentimes to be the most perfect expression of the hopelessness of life without Christ, the words of Walter Savage Landor. I strove with none, for none was worth my strife. You see the cynical. I strove with none, for none was worth my strife. Nature I loved. And next to nature, art. You see the intellectualist. He loves nature and he loves art, sculpture, paintings, music, literature, anything that is artistic. Nature I loved, and next to nature, art, and he'd had a marvelous time. He'd lived this full intellectual life. I fought with none, for none was worth my strife. Nature I loved, and next to nature art. I warmed both hands before the fire of life, and oh, how enjoyable and warm and enriching it was. I warmed both hands before the fire of life. It sinks. While I'm looking at it, the fire's going out. The fuel's ended. I've poked it. I've blown it. It's going out. It sinks. And what about it? And I am ready to depart. There's nothing left. It's going. It's leaving me. And I'm left alone, and I can do nothing about it. I've nothing to look forward to. I'm going out. There's the end. Life without Christ is utterly hopeless. There is no way. There is no path. There is no life. There is no truth. It's a wilderness, a solitary way, and it leaves us helpless and hopeless and lost. and hungry and thirsty, and our souls fainting within us. But, my dear friend, there is no need to go out like that. I am the way, the truth, and the life. They cried out unto the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distresses. Listen, he led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city of habitation. That's it. And he satisfieth the longing soul, and feedeth the hungry soul with good things. Christ is the way, the truth, the life. Ah, but you say we no longer believe in that. That's in the realm of folklore. My dear friends, isn't it rather amazing that anybody should still go on saying that? The newspapers must be tragically short of news. To go on repeating something that has been said so often. Any fool in a bar parlour in London tonight is saying that. He's always said it. There's nothing new in saying that there's no God and that Christ is a myth. I remember a poor old man being converted at the age of 77. And his greatest trouble in his life from there on was that 30 years before, in a drunken argument and brawl, he had said, Jesus Christ is a bastard. But he wasn't given press publicity for saying it, but he said what's being said. I confess I don't quite understand the mentality of this modern world we're living in. I read a psalm in the Old Testament which says this, the fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Have we advanced beyond that? Of course we haven't. It's simply a dogmatic assertion with no proof whatsoever. It's simply repeating things which cannot be proved in any way at all. It doesn't take into consideration for a moment the order and the arrangement in the cosmos. It doesn't take into account human history. It doesn't take into account the fact of Jesus Christ. What I don't quite understand about these people is why they speak of 1955 if they really believe what they say. Why do they call it 1955? Why do they adopt that chronology? Look here, if you're to be scientific, you know you mustn't do that sort of thing. If you don't believe that Christ has ever lived, why'd you speak of 1955? It's rubbish, it's nonsense. You're dwelling on a folklore, and you're repeating it day by day, and it's very wrong of you to tell your children that this is January the 16th, 1955. You mustn't tell them fables and fairy tales. I almost apologize for having said all that. Oh, it's pathetic, it's tragic. Shall I say another thing that may surprise you much more? The people who do harm to Christianity are not those people. We don't expect anything better from them. The fool will go on saying in his heart there is no God. The world by wisdom knew not God. The Bible has prepared us for all this. It says the natural man cannot. Don't expect him to, and don't be surprised when he doesn't. They don't do any harm. I don't expect unbelievers to glory in the Lord Jesus Christ. They've never seen him. They don't know him. They're blinded by the God of this world. That doesn't trouble me at all. The real harm is done by people who call themselves Christians and who are members and sometimes ministers in the Christian church, but who deny the miraculous and the virgin birth and the supernatural. They are the people that do the harm. Very well, my friends, he is the answer. He is the way. Yes, he leads them by the right way, which means this, a straight way. And what does that mean? Well, it means this, thank God, it's direct and simple. It's the right way. It is the straight way. It's direct and simple. This is how the Old Testament puts it. The way to truth that Christ has opened is a way of which it can be said that the wayfaring man, though a fool, need not err therein. Did you notice how Paul put that? He said, not many wise, not many noble are called. Thank God, here is a way that brings me to the city of truth. And I don't need to be a philosopher. I don't need to have been through the universities. You see, if that's the way, well, then those people who haven't had a secondary and a university education are doomed and damned. But here is a way that anybody can walk through. Why? It means following a person. It's a simple way. It's a direct way. It's a way for fools. It's a way for ignoramuses. It's a way for people who failed. It's a way for people whose very brain has become befuddled by drink and vice. It's a way that is prepared by God inside us and outside us. It's a direct way. It's a straight way. It's a simple way. It's God's way. What's it mean? Well, it means just this. Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. Yes, he leads us by a straight and a direct way in this way. The gospel is so gloriously simple and direct. You see, it tells us at once that there's only one question that we need consider. You needn't read all these great books on philosophy because there's only one problem, and that is man's relationship to God. It goes straight to the center. It says that's the thing. It's the only problem in all people, whether you're an intellectualist or whether you're as dull as a person can be. It doesn't matter. It's the same problem. You're not rightly related to God, and your life won't be right until God begins to bless you. The need, the quest is only that of knowing God and getting to him. Thou hast made us for thyself, said one of the greatest philosophers of all, Augustine, afterwards of Hippo. Thou hast made us for thyself. He tried philosophy, but yes, while he was a philosopher, he was immoral and kept his mistress. No, he was in the wilderness. He didn't know. At last he saw it. Thou hast made us for thyself, and our souls are restless until they find their rest in thee. And he found it. And he found it in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came into this world in order to make a way from man to God. He came into the wilderness, and he charted it, and he mapped out a road, and he made it. How do you know how he's made it? Well, he's made a road like this. He's put his own body down, and we step over him. He laid down his life, his body. It was broken, his blood was shed. The bread and the wine remind us of it. And as it were, we walk over his broken body and his shed blood. But it's a glorious highway, and it brings us to God. In all our need and helplessness and failure, when we come to him and see him and the truth as it is in him, we find that we are brought to God, and God takes hold of us and gives us a new life and a new nature and everything we need. It's a right way, it's a straight way, and I must just mention the other word as I close. It's a satisfactory way. He satisfieth the longing soul and filleth the hungry soul with goodness. He gives us complete satisfaction. Yes, intellectual satisfaction. I know of no problem tonight but that the Bible gives me an answer to it. I mean what I say. I find complete intellectual satisfaction here. And I don't care what aspect of life you're concerned about. I can demonstrate it to you. A new view of life, a new outlook, a new explanation of my origin and beginning and that of the world, an understanding of time. It's all here. Man, sin, failure, all explained. Morally, it gives me satisfaction. My sin forgiven, strength and guidance and power, the operation of the Holy Spirit within me, a new view of sin and a new desire after holiness placed within me. And whatever circumstances and situation I may find myself in, it helps me to understand it and to explain it. All things work together for good to them that love God. All things. I understand illness in a new way. I understand disappointment in a new way. I understand death in a new way. Everything is made new. All things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. All the way my Savior leads me. What shall I ask beside? Can I doubt his tender mercy, who through life has been my guide? Heavenly peace, divinest comfort, here by faith in him to dwell. For I know whate'er befalls me, Jesus doeth all things well. Where are you, my friend? That's the question. Have you been merely an auditor as I've been speaking, a mere spectator? Or have you realized that I've been speaking about you? Where are you? Are you still in that wilderness, wandering backwards and forwards, seeking, trying, hoping, longing? Are the shadows beginning to lengthen? Do you know something of the despair and the hopelessness? Oh, if you do, I am privileged to say just this to you. Cry out unto the Lord in your trouble. And as certainly as you do so, he will deliver you out of your distresses. I'm happy to say this. If you're young, well, take it from me now. Don't waste your time. You'll end where you began. Turn to him now. You may have already felt the despair. Because despair is not confined to old age. Young people can break their hearts, and they do. Turn to him now, therefore. Yes, but I'm equally glad to say this. It isn't only for young people. You may have one foot in the grave. It doesn't matter. If you realize you're lost, cry out to him in your trouble even now. And he will assure you that though you've wasted valuable, precious years, and though you've denied him and mocked him and laughed at him and scoffed at him, and though you may have been guilty of every sin known to men, and are bespattered and besmirched and fouled by the mire of this world, he won't refuse you. He will listen to you. He will receive you now. And he will tell you that he sent his Son into the world to die for you and your sins, that he therefore forgives you in him and will take you unto himself and make you his child and lead you into his own glorious presence. So turn to him even now. Amen.